Good evening, and it's been an absolutely fascinating set of discussions all through the day. Nothing better than this to sort of, as the icing on the cake, as it were, to have this conversation with one of the doyens of Indian industry and corporate sector, Mr. N.R. Narayan Murthy, who's been an icon in the real sense. And you know, we need to hear from him about how to navigate, not just navigate this uncertain world, but the value systems, the leadership mantras which Indian leaders and corporate entrepreneurs here today need to follow. So I'll jump right in, Mr. Murthy. To start with, I think let's look at a broader picture. We are aware of the kind of headwinds the global economy faces and the uncertainty with which every corporate leader now looks at managing his company, his or her company. What are the 3 or 4 things entrepreneurs who are by nature risk takers need to take, and what are the things they need to keep in mind while managing their firms and ventures?
Well, before I answer your question, let me thank Shri Arun Puri, Rahul Kanwal, you, and the entire team of the India Today group and Business Today for this kindness. You know, when you talk of uncertain times, what you mean is the probability of an event happening varies from time to time. And consequently, the expected value also changes. That's what uncertainty is. So how do entrepreneurs plan for such uncertain times? My view is that you must hope and act for the best. However, be prepared for the worst. That is, make sure that your value proposition is so strong to the VCs. Ensure that your value proposition can be explained in a clear and unambiguous way to the VCs, because you are trying to get money and this is a difficult time. They don't have much money. That's the first thing. You know, I used to, if it's my 75th year, I'm not involved in any business. I used to look at about 50, 60 entrepreneurs every year. They were all bright guys, very bright, you know, PhDs from MIT, you know, from Johns Hopkins, from IITs, all of that. But somehow the ability to define very clearly in a simple sentence what their product or service is supposed to do is somewhat lacking. So focus and sharpen your definition of your value addition. Second, create an accentuated and differentiated value system vis-a-vis your competitors, because at the end of the day, you're trying to take some market share. In rare cases, you may expand the market, but that's mostly in areas where you're creating discontinuity in the marketplace. But most often, most of us do what has been done before, but we try to do slightly better. But in these tough times, you have to clearly differentiate yourselves from the pack. The third thing is, these are tough times. Therefore, money is in short supply. Hence, you have to lead by example in hard work, in discipline, in austerity, in innovation, etc., etc. As was pointed out earlier, there is no better instrument to create trust in the minds of your younger colleagues than you leading by example. Because then people would say, if this is good enough for him or her, it should be good enough for us too. That's the beauty of what Mahatma Gandhi did. You know very well. Mahatma Gandhi used to travel by third class, he used to wear loin cloths, he used to eat simple food and all. So there had to be a lot of people, white-clothed people, who had to take care of him in his travels. And once Sarojini Naidu said, it takes a fortune to keep this old man in poverty. So it was well worth it. The point is, it was well worth it to keep that old man in poverty because he had understood the psyche of Indians and he wanted to truly represent Indians. So I would say you, the entrepreneurs, will have to lead by example. The fourth thing that you have to look at when you are in difficult times is focus on work productivity. I have, let's say, when I used to be the CEO or the executive chairman of Infosys for about 30 years, I must have met literally thousands of CEOs. Without exception, when I entered the organization, without reading their annual report, I could say whether that organization is going down or is healthy. You know why? Where there is no value for time in a company, that organization is going down, without exception. Because the leaders don't demonstrate their punctuality, their commitment to time, and all the employees that are there, okay, if it doesn't matter to the leaders, why should we be worried? The result is work productivity suffers a lot. The last one I would like to say is innovation. This is the time, this is a tough time when you have to focus on how you can get better value for money in everything that you do. Everything that you do. I still remember in 1992, we conducted a conference for the internal people on innovation. People spoke in English, in Kannada, and in Hindi. All the three languages, because there were employees at different levels in the organization who did not understand English well. So one of the janitors came to me next morning, is a Kannada man. He asked me in Kannada, look, I didn't really understand all that. Can you explain to me? I said, Chandrapa, you are in charge of keeping 8 conference rooms clean. Now I'll tell you what innovation for you would be. He said, every day you go and clean these 8 conference rooms, you take a certain amount of time, you spend a certain amount on the cleaning liquid, okay, and you do it to a certain level of cleanliness. Tomorrow morning, go to the market and find out if there is a cheaper cleaning liquid that will clean as well as what you're doing today, or even better. Thereby, you have reduced the cost. Second, you were using one hand and a certain cloth for doing. Tomorrow, try and use both the hands. Thereby, you will clean it slightly faster. Therefore, you are doing today, tomorrow, your job in half the time. It may not be half the time. It may be 10%, 20% less, doesn't matter. Third, I said, today when you clean the table, you see, watch it very carefully, you will see certain specks of dust. Tomorrow, say, focus on how you can clean the table without any speck of dust. So therefore, whether it is the janitor or it is the chairman, Everybody has a role for innovation in the company. And I think you entrepreneurs have to realize it, and you have to take this. Now, I'll just tell one story because this is very important. My wife's batchmate at Telco, postgraduate engineering trainee program, was a BTech and MTech from IIT Bombay. Very bright fellow. He was appointed later on as the general manager of a company in Karnataka. He is from Kashmir. He didn't know Kannada. So he went to inspect a plant in Harihar, and he was visiting the factory. And he stopped at a milling machine or something, and he asked that operator in milling machine, he was an old man, what do you think? How do you think we can improve? I believe that old man started weeping. There were tears in his eyes. So my wife's friend got a little bit surprised because his question was in English that was translated to Kannada by the general manager of the factory. So he said, did I say something wrong? So the general manager asked him, he said, no, sir. Till now, somehow all the officers in this factory thought I had only two hands. But for the first time in the history of this company, here comes a man who realizes that I too have a brain. I have given my entire personality to this company. This brain comes free to this company. So therefore, my request to all of you, those entrepreneurs who are here, is to realize that innovation is not the preserve of a chosen few. It has a role for every one of the people. Sorry, let me stop here.
It's absolutely fascinating. You need to absolutely fascinating example, sir. I'll take off from what you said about the times and how entrepreneurs need to behave.
Yeah.
The interesting point now is we are at a time while the going is tough, but the last year, for instance, has been a completely boom year for funding and the kind of people, the VCs literally chasing them. Yeah. So do you think that, you need to now have startups and entrepreneurs come back to reality and follow these principles? Because there are governance issues, there are issues of, overvaluation, which are now getting into big trouble in the public markets. How do you see this contradiction playing out?
At Infosys, when I was there, we always followed the principle that behave like it is a bad time, even though it is a good time. Why? Because it is very, very difficult to come down from a higher level to lower level. We are all used to working hard to go from lower level to higher levels. Once we get used to that higher level, very difficult. So I used to tell people, be austere. For example, at Infosys, till we reached $2 billion of revenue and $100 million of net income, we all traveled in economy in India. Internationally too. Only after that, people started traveling in business class outside India. Of course, we traveled in economy all over, but since my 75th year, my children have insisted that's your own money, so please travel business class. Anyway, so my request to entrepreneurs is to behave as if today is a tough day. Then things will be easy when the difficult days come, number one. Number two, focus on estimating the market size, very, very clearly. One of the weaknesses that India has is we are unable to estimate the market size properly. You all know in the middle 1990s, so many foreign companies came to India. They all said there are 200 million middle class Indians. I mean, Arun knows there was hardly 50. Everybody burnt his or her hand. So therefore, my request to you people is, while you may try to get as much money from VCs as possible, that's your smartness, obviously. But realize one thing, nothing is free in life. If you take money from other people today, there is an expectation. Nobody is giving you free money. They want return on that. So therefore, it is better to estimate the market size carefully and consequently estimate the revenues very carefully and consequently estimate the expenses very carefully. I would say that is the next thing is, please focus on hiring the best possible talent. There are two attributes for a professional. First is competence and second is values. Only a person who has both competence and values will succeed during the good times, during the bad times. That's why, at least when I was there, we, for 30, well, not 30, 20 and odd years, we had the byline, powered by intellect, driven by values. I don't know why it is not there today, but anyway, Salil knows. Bill Gates told me that is the best byline that he had seen, because at the end of the day, we were in consulting. And that requires competence and values, because you have to create trust in your customers. Trust is what will bring you repeat business. Repeat business is what will grow your revenues faster and faster. The last thing that I would say is, please realize that where a price is what a customer pays and value is what the customer expects. If at all times you focus on the ratio of value divided by price, what I used to call business value addition, then there is a possibility that even during tough times, you can get higher prices. Let me give you a simple example. If, Saurabh, I sell a gizmo to Arun, and I say this costs $100, and he pays $100, and I also show him through my mathematical model that he will get value worth $200 for the India Today group. So the ratio of value to price is 2. On the other hand, you, Saurabh, who is smarter, you go to same Arun and say, Arun, I am charging $120 for this gizmo, but this gizmo will give you $300 of value. You will use your mathematical and statistical model and demonstrate to him. Now, your ratio is 2.5, 300 over 120. I can guarantee you that Arun will simply go with your model because he gets better value for money. For every dollar he gives to you, he gets 2.5. For every dollar he gives to me, he gets only $2. On the other hand, you have got 20% higher. I would say that these are some of the things that you, the entrepreneurs, will have to look at in tough times.
So, talking of this, do you think, I mean, the kind of valuations which the companies are therefore getting with VCs chasing them, do you think there is a need for even VCs? And this I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs, that the VC sector itself is sort of spoiling the value system in the entrepreneurship space. Do you buy that argument?
No, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. They are all very bright people. They have gone to best schools in India and abroad. They are well educated. Most of them are at the top of the class. The problem is not theirs. The problem is we do not have good market research funds. What somewhat surprises me is India has been very good in psephology. I mean, whether it's Arun or Pranay Roy or somebody else. Oh my God, when they predict elections, it comes so well, so clear. But for some reason, we do not seem to use the same principles of psephology and predict the market size. I don't know why. So, we are somewhat poor in predicting the market size. And then what happens, poor entrepreneurs, I mean, who would not want more money? I mean, we are all humans. So, if I get the data that there is 200 million Indians who are willing to buy Arun's gizmo, of course, I will go and tell the VCs. And VCs are trying to handle so many requests. They don't have time. So therefore, they will also buy that logic. So in my opinion, I think we'll have to call these wonderful psephologists and request them to tell all these market research companies how to do market research. Somehow, India has not done a good job in market research. And the result is, the VCs feel bad. In the end, the entrepreneurs feel bad, because when you have your IPO and the price goes down after a week or 15 days or a month, it is so bad, because remember that even today, about 20% are retail investors. And if you add the mutual funds too, they may be larger. And this is the money of people who are poor, who have very little disposable income. And for them to lose some money, in my opinion, is not fair. Therefore, I think we'll have to do a little bit of work on market research. That's where at Infosys, we always said, under promise, over deliver. Because the moment you under promise, and if you over deliver, the trust is built. And the most important principle, attribute in a relationship is trust. So therefore, I would request the wonderful entrepreneurs assembled here to use better market research and to under-promise and over-deliver, because that is a very happy situation. That's what I would say.
So there is a feeling that, this tough time may be just about, we've seen many cycles. This tough time may just last for a year or a year and a half. What is your sense? Is this a reset in that sense? Is there a reality setting in? Or is this again a phase after which again you'll start seeing these crazy valuations coming back?
I'm an engineer, so I'm not a macroeconomist. So therefore, I am not probably the right person. But we all know that businesses have a 7-year cycle or whatever it is. So what goes down will go up, what goes up will come down. So the best thing is for each CEO to have what was described in the lecture, a good de-risking methodology. That is, identify all possible risks in all dimensions of function or in all dimensions of your organization, and classify them as strategic or short term or medium term, and have people to collect data, look at it in detail, and assemble all those people, have a discussion, and then come to some conclusion. So I would say that it is the law of nature that there will be business cycles. What goes up will come down, what goes down will come up. So design your your organization, as I said right in the beginning, so that your lifestyles, your expenses will not have to change even during a tough time. That is the ideal way to lead an organization.
So you have led from the front. You've just spoken about the whole idea of trust, and that is something which you've all in your career also you've sort of focused on. Now, alongside that, one thing which now keeps coming up is the idea of empathetic leadership.
Yeah.
That is, and particularly during these times when pandemic has upended people's lives, etc. What would you tell CEOs and business leaders about empathy, and how do they sort of navigate this period with empathy as for their company and employees?
Empathy is needed in bad times and good times. Empathy will never go out of style. Empathy is about being fair. It is about being transparent. It is about being open. It is about sitting down in private with an individual and telling him or her the real situation vis-a-vis his or her performance, but say it in a way with fairness. What do I mean by fairness? Fairness is following the golden rule. Do unto others as you want them to do unto you. Number two, fairness is maximized by using data and facts. Now, at Infosys, we were probably the first company in India to introduce open evaluation. The person that is being evaluated and the person who was evaluating would sit together, and the boss would explain on each of the dimensions of performance why he or she thinks that the one being evaluated deserves this kind of marks. And next to it, the employee who is being evaluated would also write down what he sees. When the variance between the boss's evaluation and the person who is being evaluated, his or her evaluation, then it will go to the skip level manager if it is beyond a certain thing. And so what is the value of this? The value of this is there is openness, there is transparency, it is confidential between the boss and the one being evaluated. There is empathy. Empathy is communicating the truth in a manner that the other party, realizes that it is for his or her own best. It is like a doctor telling, Bhaiya, you have cancer, but please don't worry. There are certain cures that will prolong your life by 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, whatever it is. And I am here to provide you and take care of you. That is empathy. Empathy is not hiding information. Empathy is not saying, no, don't worry, everything is fine. That is not empathy. So empathy is absolutely required for every leader, not just the CEO, for the nation's leader, for the community's leader, and everybody. However, transparency, fairness, and accountability will have to come into the picture when you demonstrate empathy.
So, having founded this iconic company called Infosys, what do you think technology will have to do to sort of help leaders and entrepreneurs navigate today's times? What is the next level which technology will have to go to?
No, I think the purpose of technology is to improve productivity, to bring the power of asynchronicity. That's one way you improve productivity, right? You bring asynchronicity. You don't have, both of the parties won't have to be in synchronous time. Third, it reduces cycle time. It improves scale of producing anything. It reduces cost, as I said. Now, technology is needed for every level of employee in a company. Because, as I said right in the beginning, the biggest responsibility of us Indians is to improve our work productivity. Now, there are many people from outside who tell me that Indian productivity is not high. I don't know, because I'm not working, so I'm the wrong person to comment on that. But many people say that. So, for me, when the times are bad, the first message that I want to convey to people is work harder. You know, after the Second World War, I'm told the Germans worked 12 hours a day on their own. Nobody told them. And they rebuilt Germany. So therefore, I would say that technology helps you improving productivity in one way. It enhances transparency, and it brings some kind of leveling across people. Let me tell you a small story. I hope you don't mind. It says time is up.
Please.
You know, in 1992, we installed the first ATM at Infosys in the world's first software campus. There was no other place which had a software campus at that time. And we had only one canteen at that time. And I was standing behind a janitor for our lunch. We all used to go, and eat at the same place. So I struck a conversation with him in Kannada. So I said, "How do you find that new machine we have installed?" He said, "Sir, fantastic." He didn't say in English, but he told in Kannada, "Sir, that is fantastic. Great." So then I asked him, "Friend, why do you say so?" He said, "Sir, whenever I used to go to the teller on the campus, that fellow used to discriminate against me because all these software engineers would go abroad, buy Reebok. Those days, Reebok shoes were a big thing. They would wear he didn't say Reebok, some fancy shoes and all of that. And they would wear tie and this and that. And the teller used to give them higher attention than me. Sir, but this machine which you have installed, it doesn't care whether you go or I go, it dispenses money in the same time." So therefore, Saurabh, technology is a great leveler. Technology raises the confidence of every employee. So I would say that the key to remember is to act in step with the speed of technology. Most often it's very difficult, But what I would request all the wonderful people assembled here is to focus on quicker decision making or faster decision making, quicker response, and try and keep as much as possible pace with technology. Because just installing technology has no value. If installing that technology does not result in better decisions, quicker decisions, and more database decisions, then technology has no value. That's what I would say.
So one more thing which, as a leader, people need to understand is the importance of strategy. Now, when we were reporters, we would talk about 5-year, 10-year horizons and plans, and we would have these questions asked to the CEOs. Today, particularly after the pandemic, the whole timeline, the horizon seems to have sort of shortened. You do not know, because it is so uncertain, you do not know what strategy you will have to take, say, over a 5-year, 7-year horizon. How do you see that playing out, and what do leaders need to do for that?
I think the smartness is to think of long term in terms of several short-term steps. As you know better than I do, John Maynard Keynes said, in the long run, we are all dead. So that long run, who knows what's going to happen. However, the beauty of dividing that long term into multiple short term steps and reviewing as often as possible, while keeping the flexibility to change the direction. Supposing you took one step and suddenly there's a kheda there. You have to go this way, right? But the need to review periodically, the need to fully understand the short term remains. A few years ago, I think 15 years ago, somebody said, no, this company has stopped giving quarterly results, this and that. What do you think? I said, who is that CEO who doesn't know what his company is going to do in the next 3 months? What kind of a CEO is he? If he doesn't even know what revenue, what profit he or she is going to get in the next 3 months, I feel sorry for such a CEO, frankly. So therefore, while you have a much higher level of certainty, much better control over the short term, what this splitting long term into multiple short term gives you is multiple reviews. At the same time, observe your competitors, observe progress in technology, observe new vendors, cheaper technology, all of that, and quickly adopt. I think that's what I would say to it. Second, wherever possible, before that, let me say, what I used to do when I was the CEO was, every cost in the company was looked at as direct cost and indirect costs. Direct costs are what are actually needed to produce the product directly. For example, in Salil's case, all the salaries of the software engineers who actually work on the project, the project manager who supervises that project, that's all direct costs. And the computers they use, depreciation on them, they're all direct. On the other hand, people like me who used to sit in the office and then drink cups of tea and all of that, we are all part of the indirect costs. So I would say when the tough times come, reduce indirect costs as much as you can. Number one. Then the second classification I used to have was fixed costs and variable costs. Variable costs or needed. Because if you sell a product or if you produce something, you have to spend that money. But there again, using innovation, reduce that variable cost. That's possible. On the other hand, try to either convert fixed costs to variable costs or try and eliminate as much of fixed costs as possible. I would say that these are some of the things that we can do in these tough times. That's what I would say.
And so what do you think is the role of the government then in helping enterprises to navigate this? Because obviously there are sectors where there is government involvement, there are sectors where there is not enough or not needed enough. How do you think the government should interact then?
Government's role is to be a catalyst in reducing friction to business, provide them all possible help to create as many jobs at as high a salary as possible. Now, having said that, let me tell you one thing. Any CEO who says, I want to create more and more jobs, that company will go down the tube. You cannot say that we have to create more and more jobs. What you have to say is, I want to increase my revenue. I want to increase my per capita revenue productivity. So in other words, while at the microeconomic level, CEOs like Salil will say, I want to increase my revenue. I want each employee to contribute more and more and more gross revenue and net income margin. The government should ensure that it is easy for him to do that. That's remove all hurdles, reduce all indirect efforts. For example, going to income tax office and sitting down, going to Delhi, this, that. That's all indirect effort. They do not add to his work. As I forget his name, my friend, who defined the concept of core and context. Core activities are those which contribute directly to the revenue of a company, to the strength of a company. Contextual activities are those that can be outsourced, that can be done by somebody else. The government activities are contextual activities. So therefore, I would say a good government keeps itself away from businesses as much as possible, while doing its legitimate duty of collecting as fair a tax amount as possible in as pleasant a manner as possible. Second, it has to use this money efficiently, honestly, and productively on all public goods, building roads, education, healthcare, etc. That also, most of it has gone to private sector in India. But anyway, for poor people. I think if the government can really understand that the only way this country can abolish poverty. Indira Gandhi used to say, Garibi hatao, Garibi hatao. What happened? Nothing. Because you don't remove poverty by slogans, man. You remove by people like Salil. By they're working 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day. They are the ones who remove poverty. Not me, who is sitting at home and relaxing and all of that. So therefore, I would say that the governments must every day say, how can I make life better and better for people who are creating jobs? I think if the government, and then get a set of people who will be impacted by their decisions in framing a policy, because they're all bright fellows, they're all educated people, they know so much. If their input is given, if their input is used in creating policy, I think then India will definitely move towards a Ramarajya, as we have been saying. Yeah.
Leadership lessons from an iconic business leader himself. Thank you very much, Mr. Murthy. It has been an absolute pleasure. Big round of applause. And with that, we come to the end of today's deliberations. Thank you very much for joining us.
If you like the video, do like, comment, share and subscribe.